Hello guys, welcome back to the Beastie Room. Now today we are going to do a rehousing because we haven't had one for quite some time, and we're actually going to try now and do some of our glass enclosures because we've got many of them that are still actually in the old, how they were when we moved them. So much of the greenery and stuff like that have died off, and we need to upgrade them basically and get them all sorted out, get them spruced up. And every now and again it's nice just to actually get on and change our spiders' enclosures. You see that? Very distracting. Right, it's a little mealworm bug. Right then, so without further ado, what we're going to do, we are going to change this one out, and this is for our Ornithoctoninae species Nhen Dep. Now we showed this spider in our Feeding Frenzy 9 video. Now this is a spider that we just don't see in the hobby very often at all. We've had this particular female, she's in here. We've had her for around about 3 years now, and we have not managed to locate a male. We are desperately searching for a male. So if you know of one, or you've got one, throw me a message. I would love to buy him. So what we're going to do, we are going to set her up. Now these are a fossorial Asian spider. So we're going to give it a fair bit of soil, if we can find something to throw it in with. This is not good. Right, I'm going to have to use my hands. Right then. So what we're going to do, this is just our damp potting compost, and it did have a little bit of cocoa fibre in it as well, because we try and use as much of our substrate and stuff. If you clean an enclosure out and the substrate is half decent, there's no reason to throw it away. So we tend to try and hang on to as much as we can, and we can mix it all up, and we mix it all back up again with our regular potting compost and things like that, and then that gives us a whole new blend of compost to use again. Like I say, there's no reason to throw it all away. The only time we don't use it is if it's come from something like a really heavy Weber, Balfouri. We never use anything that comes from them, purely because they're pretty filthy, and when they're in a colony, then obviously there's loads of scraps of food and rubbish and bits and pieces like that. So we don't tend to use them. So what I want to do now, I want to try and move this around like that. What we want to do, we want to encourage our spider to go in here. That's the idea. So we need to seal that off like that. Now, being a fossorial spider, it is obviously going to dig down. So we want it to go in there. That's the idea. So we can fill this up. It's important that we fill in the gaps, because should there be any light in there, it's not going to encourage our spider to actually dig down. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill the top up like this, and we just bed that in so it's nice and tight. And what we can do, we can run some moss along that top edge, which will make it look a bit smarter, make it look a little bit nicer. So you notice now, like we buried it, and now we're uncovering it again. What we want to do is get like a hole going on down in there, so that our spider feels at home. So what we're doing is we're going to put this really big hole in here. This will encourage her to go down there, because when we put her back in the enclosure, the first thing she's going to want to do is hide away. So we're going to let her have that option by giving her exactly somewhere to go. There we go. Probably put a little bit too much in now. So as you can see, we can play around with this stuff a lot. Take a little bit more out. Once we get the look we want, we'll be there. So what we're trying to achieve is almost like it coming down a bank. So we imagine this is the bank. We want it to go down. So we want this piece down in the front here to be quite a little bit lower. So we can take out a bit more. It's often easier when you're doing these things to overload it and then remove what you don't want. So there you go. We've sort of like created that. So what we're going to do now is we are literally just going to brush it off. Bit of a big brush, this one, to be fair. But hey, we use whatever is at hand. There we go. Now that's starting to look like something, isn't it? So then we've got a plant here. Now we're going to put the plant in really just because we just want to give it a little bit of just a little bit of extra, really, just something nice to look at, really. So what we're going to do is we are going to plonk that in here. Make sure he's deep enough. You'll notice we didn't put no drainage layer in here. These guys like it really, really moist. So we're not going to bother with the drainage layer. And what we can do is we can keep an eye on everything purely by the colour of the soil. There we go. You see how that just fills that up? Perfect. Then all we need is our water bottle. We are going to put our water bottle over in this corner here. And the reason for that is because when she starts digging, hopefully she's going to dig here. When she starts, it's all going to come out here. So we don't really want it all going in the water bowl, if we can help it. So that's that there. Now we're going to add a little bit of moss. Now the moss really is going to do a couple of things. One is going to hold the moisture down in this area here. We're also going to put a bit across the top here, and hopefully, all being well, that will grow in and it will help to hold that top area in place. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a going in there. Literally just put it in, firm it down. It's also going to cover up that little bit of top wood there as well, which isn't a problem. So we're going to put a piece there. Push that in there like that. You see how it's starting to form? And then what we want now, always look at your moss when you got it down like this and you can see what sort of gap you have on the area that you want to cover. So we can look at our moss and then we can visualize how we want the shape of it to be. So with this, we can use this here. Where are we going to go? I'm actually going to come across here like that. Put that in there like so. What are we looking at? We can almost go the full length of this, to be fair. You can always add a little bit if we cut it short. It's not a problem. This is going to be a monstrous piece now, look. So we can take our bowl out, make a bit of room, put that in there. Now you see that's a nice tight fit in there now, which will help just lock that all in. It's going to look really nice. Put that in there. We're just going to take that up there. You can put a bowl in. Now one thing to bear in mind is you don't want your moss inside your water bowl, because it will act as a sponge and it will just empty it out, and before you know it you'll have no water in there. It'll all be in the bottom of your tank. So that will do that. So that's nice and easy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just quickly wipe the glass down, because it's had my filthy mitts all over it. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a clean. And you have to bear with us with the reflections for a moment. There we go. How's that looking? I think that's looking all right. So we're going to literally fill up our water bowl. There we go. And that is it. So what we're going to do now, we're not going to bother spraying the moss or anything like that. We're going to leave it as it is now. We can put a little bit of water down in for our plant, just for the moment. Because these guys do like a little bit of water as they go in. And as you can see there, we can be quite frivolous with it. Because of the way we've set this up, this is going to be solid dirt straight down all the way through to the tank. So it will, in fact, the bottom area will stay really, really moist. These guys like it on the moist side, so we can use that to our advantage. And she will also dig all the way down to the bottom, and when she meets the bottom, she will web it all up. So we just have to be careful then. So what we will be able to do is we will be able to see in the back of the tank and work out where she is actually resting. That's the area that you leave and allow it to dry out. The rest of the enclosure we can pour. If she comes up in this corner, which is what we're hoping she's going to come in here and work her way to the back here. If she does that, then in future when we add our water to keep our humidity up, we will put it all down in this area here and along the front here, and it will seep through. We don't want to be pouring it where she's actually resting. So that area that she rests in can stay relatively dry in comparison to the rest of the enclosure. So it's very important that we don't actually soak her out, because as soon as she feels water coming in, she will try and vacate the area. Now we can have a look at her here. Now this being an Asian fossorial spider, these guys can be very, very quick to defend themselves. They're not shy in looking after themselves. That being said, they are quite shy in their general behaviour. So they will only be a pain to you if you push them. If you're gentle with them and don't aggravate them, they are relatively well behaved. Now, as you can see there now, she is actually in a position at the moment where she thinks she's hiding, and she's just sitting there all hunkered down. And as long as we don't bother her, she'll stay like that, and she's going to be in no sort of danger of exploding out of this box and disappearing around the room. As long as we're very gentle with her, she won't see anything as a threat. Now, as you can see, she's an absolutely beautiful spider. Look at these on the legs, these rings around the legs, very, very nice. And the abdomen there, they really are a very cool spider. We just don't see very much of them. Now, I do understand at the moment that the spider shop have slings in at the minute, and they're the first ones I've seen in a very long time. We don't see any adults for sale at all anymore. There was a little run of them a few years ago when we picked this one up, but we haven't seen any since. So what we're going to do now, we're going to just try and tease her out. Remember, when you put a box in like this, the spider's natural reaction is to come back up rather than go down. So we need to try and make sure that we sort of block her path. So what we're going to do, we are just going to tickle her back legs like this, so she knows we're here. You see? Just going to get her to open up a little bit. Here she comes. So what we're doing is we're just gradually lifting her. What we're doing here is, I don't want her to disappear underneath that plant. I'd like you to be able to have a look at her. There she is. Now you see there, we had no threat display from her. Although, as we've said, they are very, very keen to look after themselves, and they will not hesitate to bite. So you have to be gentle, but as long as you do that, as we've seen there now, she comes out and she's very, very placid. She's more at the moment wondering where on earth she is and does she need to worry about anything. Now you can see there they've got very, very stocky front legs. You see on here, compared to the back legs, they're very, very stocky, they're very strong. And this enables these guys to actually dig down. And what they will do is they will scrap the floor up with these front legs, and they will carry it underneath and in their fangs, and they will walk it backwards, back out, and they dump it outside. Now we might, if we're very, very lucky, we might just catch her doing a little bit of that in the coming days. But once she gets in here, she will probably just tuck herself in, and that will be it for a few days. She'll sit tight. I think this is a lovely little enclosure. This is going to look really nice, and we can get away with this with the plants and stuff like this with these particular spiders because they don't tend to web up drastically around the enclosure. So hopefully this area here will end up all webbed up, but all being well, this area here will stay nice and clean and give our plant the chance. Because many of the enclosures that we do, if our spiders are heavy webbers, your plants just don't stand a chance. As soon as they start webbing them up, it almost suffocates them. And we've tried in the past, keep cleaning it off, but it never really works. So we need hardy plants that will withstand a little bit of abuse and don't need too much water. So these guys, these plants here, I'm not sure the name of these, but they're very good. Right, she's actually just sitting real still. She's doing really well. She's in lovely condition. Right then, now in terms of temperature and things like that, we want to be keeping these around about, I mean our room is 80 as you all know, and they do very well in this. She's grown on from a sort of, well, she was a juvie when we bought her, and she's come on really, really well, and she does everything that's needed. So around about the 80 mark is good. They do like it warm, so you can go down to maybe 75. I probably wouldn't go any lower than that. I'd try and keep them up around 75 or above. You can take them up into sort of the mid 80s and they will be fine. They do enjoy a little bit of warmth. Now, in terms of food, we're looking at feeding these, we're looking at like adult dubia roaches, adult red runners. These are all good foods. When you breed your own live food, it doesn't matter too much what you give them, because your live food is of good quality because you know what you've been feeding your food. So it's always good quality, and something well worth thinking about. If you've got a few spiders, get your own little colony on the go. It's much cheaper and much better quality than what you'll pick up. So it's just much better food. So we can give them. One of the things that we like to do with the fossorial spiders, a little tip for you, because they don't always come out, we like them to hunt for their food. Now you can drop food straight down the tunnel and they will grab it at the other end. So if all you've got is, say, female dubia roaches, I would drop them down the tunnel and let her catch them at the other end, and she will feed straight away. If you want them to hunt a little bit for their food, we use the male runners, the male dubias, because they walk around. They're constantly on the go. They don't bury themselves. They're always up on the surface, so they will last longer. These are pretty much nocturnal spiders, so you won't see them out and about in the daytime very much. Generally, it's only going to be of a night time. When we come in with a torch, we'll see her up on the entrance here, waiting for food or whatever. You might see her come out for a drink. They don't come out very often. Now, if you're feeding male dubias, that will keep them on the go. They'll hunt them. Also, if you give them large red runners, they are also constantly on the go. So it encourages our spiders to actually hunt. With the female dubia, if you leave them out in here, they will just bury down. You'll never see them again. And chances are your spider won't feed. So always important to give them food that is actually going to suit the environment that your spider lives in. If it's a fossorial, it needs surface dwelling food. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear and never see it again. So bear that in mind and just keep it moist. And as you know, we can do that with the colour of the soil. If it starts going really light, we know we need a little bit more in there. If it's really, really dark, we know that we need to lay off a little bit and let it dry out a bit. So it's all about keeping an eye on the colour of the soil. We've had a lot of people message us lately about they're struggling getting the right humidity for their spiders. Now, one thing I will say, and we've always said here on this channel, do not get hung up on the numbers. You know, the numbers are there as a guide. So when we say we're looking at 70 to 80% humidity, we need to translate that into the soil, into the colour of the soil. So for this here, this being sort of 70-80% would be around about this sort of colour. If it starts getting lighter, then we're losing moisture in the soil, which means that our humidity will go down a little bit. But what you've got to remember is our spiders are very, very adept at adapting to their environment. And we've kept this girl absolutely bone dry at stages, and she's been equally well. She's done equally as good. So don't get too hung up, you know. Just think of it as a little bit of common sense and you'll be fine. No problems at all. So don't go chasing them numbers. You'll give yourself a headache. Right then. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's about time we started getting back to some of the nice enclosure builds. This is what we're all about here. This is what we really enjoy. So we've got a few to do, and hopefully we can start incorporating some of them into the channel again. And then all we've got to do is find somewhere to put them, because we haven't got a lot of room at the minute. But that's going to change. Right then. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, be calm, be gentle, and love your spider. And I'll see you all soon, guys.